Hey, it's me, MLB. Welcome back to Days of Our Lives, My Hero Academia version, 50 Ways to Kiss Part 13. You wiped your tears quickly as you ran for your room, your heart being pulled in two directions. When you'd said that you didn't want to be with Shoto anymore, you felt like your heart had broken in two, immediate regret setting in as the words had left your lips. But you weren't about to turn around and apologise. Why should you apologise? He was the one who put you in this situation. Okay, granted, you could have been more firm and told him that you didn't want him to do it, but it was all because of his need to feel like he owned you. Why was he like this? Then you remembered everything he had told you about his childhood and growing up. It all made sense. Those who he loved the most had left him, and there had been nothing that he could do about it. His mum, his older brother Toya. He didn't have any control over the future, and it must have scared him silly. He was only little after all when it happened. Your heart ached as you grabbed for the door to your room, throwing it open and then closed as you entered and threw yourself on the bed. I'm so sorry, Shoto. I'm so sorry. I said stuff I didn't mean in the heat of the moment. Forgive me. You cried your heart out, all of those pent-up emotions flowing freely. It had been an emotionally wrecking morning. Shoto turned slowly, thinking as he walked numbly back to the school building, through the hall, and then out the other side. She didn't like being mine. No, that's not it. It was the humiliation. That's what she didn't like. Why was it humiliating? He wondered, brows scrunched as he pushed his hands further into his pockets and continued to the door, then out the other side to walk across to Heights Alliance. Will she want to see me? What do I say? I love her and I always will. How do I get her to love me back? Should I be trying to get her to love me back? No, that's controlling. I didn't like it when Aizawa was controlling me. He was doing his best to understand what you were feeling, but emotions were like a Rubik's Cube to him. Slowly he walked into the building and then up to your room, stopping outside your door and listening for a second. Yin? He asked. Silence was his reply, as you had heard his voice but had frozen and didn't know what to do. He sighed and turned with his back to your dorm room door, sliding his back down it till his butt hit the floor and his forearms were resting over his knees, his light veins lacing his forearms and forking into the back of his hand. Slowly he hung his head, pulling forth everything that he had thought about on his walk over so that he could apologise and ask his questions. He desperately wanted to understand so that maybe he could fix things. I fought Aizawa, but he used his quirk and bound my arms so I couldn't retaliate. I know it's not the same as your situation, but I felt humiliated, and you must have felt the same, standing up the front with my marks on your neck and collarbone. He stopped, listening to hear if you made any sounds from inside your room. By now you had snuck off your bed and had crawled to your door to hear him better. I just want to ensure that you wouldn't leave me, but it didn't work. I shouldn't have done that, he said softly. Your heart broke and another tear slipped from your eye. He sounded so vulnerable right now. I shouldn't have done that, he repeated again. He meant it. You could feel his sorrow. I still love you. I just want you to know that, he said softly. More tears spilled down your cheeks. All was quiet for a little bit. Then your heart stopped when you heard a rustle at the door, the rustle of him getting up to leave, so you jumped up and grabbed the door handle and yanked it open. Shoto, you said to his back that was just within reach of your hand. Shoto, I'm sorry. He turned, catching you as you reached out and grabbed for him, both of you holding onto each other in a tight embrace. I'm so sorry. I don't want to break up. I still love you. I'm sorry I acted on impulse. I was just so humiliated and I didn't like... Please, tell me why you felt humiliated, Shoto asked. I want to know. I need to understand. It's just because Midnight knew exactly what caused those marks, and the look that she gave me made me mad, and then you standing there looking smug while I was upset didn't help. But I understand why you feel the need to mark me, to make sure that I wouldn't leave, like them. But please, can we talk about this? Because it needs to stop. I don't want to be humiliated again. He nodded. You stepped back and took his hand to lead him into your bedroom so you could talk in private, and you spent the next 2 hours just talking it all out and understanding each other. It was a beautiful moment, one that you put in the memory bank for forever, and by the end of it, everything had been rectified and reconciliated. Shoto understood that what you and he did together in private stayed in private, and you apologised for using a quirk on him and promised that next time there was anything that upset either of you, you would talk about it before it blew out of proportion. Now I have to face the class again, he sighed. I know some of them will know what the marks are, but it's none of their business. I will not say anything, Shoto said firmly. I'm happy that you are mine again. You smiled at him. Yeah, always and forever, right? Yes, he nodded. Then you were back off to class to continue on with the rest of the day. Thankfully, no one said anything. They had seen the puddles and the remaining ice out in the hall and heard you shouting, so they were more concerned with your and Shoto's relationship more than anything else. Thankfully, you could say everything between you and him was fine, and that afternoon you headed back to the dorms hand in hand with him. Hey, Shoto, this coming weekend, do you want to have dinner with my mum? I'll organise it. Yes, he nodded, and I want you to meet my mum as well. Really? You asked, stopping so that you could stare at him. You knew this was a big moment. He nodded. Yes, I am determined to work to have you by my side, and I want you to meet my mum. She is important to me, and you are important to me. Your eyes welled with tears. It was beautiful to hear it from him. We'll always make it work, I promise, you said, squeezing his hand. Yin? Shoto asked as you entered the dorm building. You asked. My level 6 boyfriend now. He just couldn't help it. Here is a bonus section of the teachers talking after school that day. So, what happened? Midnight asked in a gossipy tone as she sauntered in and placed a hand down on Aizawa's desk. You'll need to be more specific, he answered in a bored voice, still looking down at the papers that he was marking. You know, with Yin and Todoroki, she prompted. You know what those marks were, Aizawa. Yes, I'm aware, he replied blandly. Hey, party people! What are we talking about over in the sound booth? Hisashi asked as he raved on in to join the conversation. We're discussing Yin and Todoroki's relationship, Midnight gossiped. We're discussing no such thing. Aizawa deadpanned, still looking down his papers. Oh, yeah! Is Yin okay? Did Recovery Girl help her? What's this got to do with Todoroki? Did they fight? Was he the one who bruised her? Hisashi asked. Yes, Midnight leered, with his mouth. Pardon? Hisashi asked loudly. There's a glitch in the line. Can you repeat that? If you're going to discuss business that's none of your own, then do not do it at my desk, Aizawa said darkly, fingertips scrunching into the paper a little. Aizawa! If you knew of their relationship and that Todoroki had made the marks with his mouth, why did you force her to move her hand? Hisashi asked. I didn't know at first. I was concerned that she had a real injury. Aizawa replied. Aww, Midnight cooed. You care about your students, huh? So cute. But then, after that, I beat up Todoroki. Aizawa said. You what? Midnight and Hisashi both asked with surprise. I took him to the oval, tied him up, then I beat him. Aizawa stated calmly. I'm sure he learned his lesson. I'm not going to lie, that sounds kind of hot to be tied up and whipped, Midnight said with a glint in her eye. Yay, folks! Let's keep this PG for the listeners, yes? Hisashi said. Well, I did see Yin and Todoroki holding hands after school, so I think everything's A-okay. Good, Aizawa said softly. And there ends part 13. 2 more chapters to go. See you next Wednesday.